Hey, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to take a look at the early 2000 series, Invader Zim. This video was requested by Richie, who tagged me in the post on Twitter. Let's get this video started. Cue the intro. Invader Zim was created by Jhonen Vasquez. Vasquez has been drawing since an early age. He mostly drew dinosaurs because he thought they were cool, and he originally wanted to be a paleontologist when he grew up. Vasquez also had an interest in horror films. One of his most memorable moments was when his older sister took him to see the movie Alien in theaters.
What were some of the influences that you had when you were growing up?
I drew my whole life. I started out drawing a combination of dinosaurs and Giger's Alien. My sister took me to go see Alien when, God, I was tiny.
Okay, now we're starting to explain a lot right here then.
Yeah, when it was in theaters, I don't know if it was like first run or second run theaters or what, but so I must have been around 6 or 7 when I saw Alien. I knew it was scary and I knew, but I was obsessed for years, a good deal of my life after that. When I was a little kid, my dad would take us to my brother's, family friend, my brother's godfather, and his son had the Making of Alien book. And every time I went, I was just this huge little pain in the ass, just constantly saying, "Can I see the book? Can I look at the book?" And I just was obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. And there was that page. It was a 2-page spread of John Hurt, Kane in the movie, with the Thing. He's just dead on the dining table, and the little chest bursters coming out of him. And I just would stare at that page, and just trying to understand what I was looking at. There was just this weird split between me knowing that it was fake and that people made this. They made this. People's jobs were dedicated to making this horrible, amazing, otherworldly thing. And then, you're still a kid, so it's kind of real to you. And I just thought, what is that like? What does it feel like to have this thing in you? The idea of something that doesn't care about you as a person, but it's just using you as a home for a little while, and it explodes out of you. I was obsessed.
Later on in life, Vasquez attended Mount Pleasant High School in San Jose, California. This is where he developed the character Johnny for a comic in his school newspaper called Johnny, the Little Homicidal Maniac.
So what got you into doing Johnny? And was that just something you started making and then it was published and then it kind of started to gain some traction?
I mean, I was doing Johnny in high school.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you could imagine doing a book about a serial killer in
I
high
can.
school now. It's just
not now.
Yeah, it's just not a thing.
Hold on. So did you get a book deal or were you just kind of doodling it? Was it the development kind of phase of Johnny, or were you actually getting published in high school?
No. I was getting published in the school paper.
Oh.
Woo!
Yeah, different times. It was different times. I could do a comic about murdering students, and
Man, no kidding. What a different time.
And nobody went, "We got to keep an eye on this kid."
Yeah.
Wow.
After graduation, Vasquez will continue to draw Johnny and will later submit samples of his artwork to a comic book publisher called Slave Labor Graphics. After he saw one of the comic book advertising commercials on TV, Slave Labor would eventually get in contact with Vasquez and they asked him if he wanted to do a series with Johnny as the main character. The comic book ran from 1995 to 1997 and will last 7 issues and even get a spin-off for the character Squee.
I took a bunch of comics over to my eventual publisher, Slave Labor Graphics, who they were doing stuff back in the day, and it just really wasn't much of a process. It was just very casual.
Yeah, because you already had the comics done, so you could just kind of like show it to them.
Yeah, I didn't do anything original for that. That was, I was going to call it a pitch package, but it was literally just like a manila envelope full of just loose comics. And I was like, here you go.
That sounds great. Back in the day.
How big was
slave labor?
Mm-hmm.
They were very small. They had like maybe enjoyed some like indie fame for some stuff in the, I think, late 80s, I'm not really sure.
In 1999, Vasquez received a call from Nickelodeon executive producer Mary Harrington. Mary was introduced to Vasquez's work from reading his Squee comics, and Vasquez also felt like the reason that she contacted him is because she liked the way he handled the characters in his comics, and so she reached out to him and asked him, can you come up with a show for Nickelodeon? Before this, Vasquez had the opportunity to make a show for MTV, but he turned it down because he was working on his Squee comic at the time.
What got the attention of Nickelodeon? Because I know they were just kind of sniffing around.
The comics.
Yeah, the comics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was the comics. I think it was kind of like the early days of I don't know if it was the early days, but for me it was when I first became aware of like studio execs trolling conventions and comic book stores for ideas. So Mary Harrington, who was the eventual executive producer on Zim, she saw Squee, so it must have been around. Oh wait, no, did she see Squee? What year was this? Either way, she saw my comics and got a hold of me. She contacted Dan. She contacted slave labor. It's like, hey, we want to talk about we're going to talk to Jhonen about blah blah blah, and Dan put them in touch with me, and I met up with them, and we got Chinese food.
That sounds nice.
They just picked my brain, and I just thought, cool, I could maybe work on a cartoon. Before that, I had actually been approached by MTV.
Oh yeah.
And I said, no thanks. I'm working on my comic right now. I'm a little busy. And which is so funny. And then I think by the time I was working on Squee, I was like it was coming to an end, and so I took the Nickelodeon offer more seriously. And then it just kind of like with pitching the comic, it just, the animated stuff just kind of happened. I don't know if that stuff happens anymore, but it was just so easy.
Yeah, that's not how it goes anymore.
Yeah.
The funny thing about Invader Zim is that Vasquez just kind of came up with ideas for the show on the spot. After the initial conversation with Mary Harrington, Vasquez just sat there trying to think of ideas to pitch. That's when he thought of an idea about the alien outcast who sees himself as the greatest creature to ever exist, and he just built the show around his premise, which took him like a couple hours to do. Vasquez made a Bible for the show, and Nickelodeon greenlit the series.
How was the process like? Did you have to like do a pitch with like a Bible and all that stuff?
Yeah, we did a Bible. We did a Bible.
Did they help you with that, or did you kind of?
I just sort of hacked one out with some friends, and it was really basic. It was a very basic Bible. I look back and it's like, oh my god, I can't believe this turned into a show. It was just this is a bunch of artwork and some synopses and the general your typical pitch sort of setup. But yeah, it was. I don't remember stressing out about anything.
That's wild. That's so not the current landscape of development.
Invader Zim premiered on Nickelodeon on March 30th in 2001. The series lasted for 2 seasons with a total of 27 episodes. The series follows an alien named Zim who's voiced by Richard Horvitz, who's part of an alien race called the Irkens. The Irkens are a power-hungry race of aliens that wants to rule the universe and trains their race for future conquest of different planets. Their leaders are the almighty Tallest who rule over the Irkens because they're the tallest members of their race.
Anyhow, send that transmission through. I wonder who it could ever be.
Zim is a delusional Irken outcast with a superiority complex.
Filthy earth creatures! It is clear who the superior species is! Isn't it? Isn't it? You stink!
Zim was banished to the Irken food court planet, Fukortia, for almost destroying his home world and his own race during the first Irken invasion known as Operation Impending Doom 1. Wanting to prove his loyalty to the Tallest, Zim shows up to the latest invader ceremony known as Operation Impending Doom 2. The Tallest became tired of Zim's constant begging and sends him off to a fake secret mission to a mysterious planet, hoping they can get rid of him for good this time.
Right there.
Ooh, a secret mission.
Happy now?
Yes.
Zim is also assigned a malfunctioning SIR unit named Gur, who's voiced by Ricky Simmons. The Tallest put Gur together with a couple of parts they found inside of a trash can.
Grr, reporting for duty. Grr? What does the G stand for? I don't know. Is it supposed to be stupid?
It's not stupid. It's advanced.
Zim survives a 6-month journey and lands on Earth, where he poorly disguises himself as a human child, and Gur disguises himself as a green dog. Zim quickly gets to work and sets up a base in a random suburban area, and even creates robot parents.
I'm selling makeup, and I just know you'll find something great in...
I said brush your teeth!
Assuming he could collect knowledge about the Earth and also learn the planet's weaknesses, Zim attends a local school in his area. This is where we're introduced to Dib, who's played by Andy Berman, who serves as Zim's opponent all throughout the series.
There! Right there! That is no kid! He's an alien! An alien! One of the monsters I've been talking about!
Everyone is fooled by Zim's disguise himself for Dib and his little sister Gas, who's played by Melissa Fahn. But the difference is, Gas just doesn't care.
Once these pictures get out, he won't be able to hide any longer. I'm gonna send them to Mysterious Mysteries, and then the world will know. Maybe they'll even let me host the show, my own episode.
I'm only 13 levels away from finishing this game, so I either finish my game or make you wish I was never born.
Dib is determined to expose Zim as an alien, while also trying to stop him from taking over the Earth, even though Dib is mocked by the people around him.
You're crazy!
Excellent, Zeta. You get an A.
Yeah.
The series is a mixture of dark comedy and sci-fi. Invader Zim was the first Nickelodeon show to use CGI.
An interesting thing about the show was it was at a time when CGI was just becoming incorporated. Like, this was the first time Nickelodeon incorporated 3D elements into a series, right? Does that sound about right? And so you sort of had an open-ended access to the CGI people who were part of your crew. You didn't have, so that was another perhaps unsustainable aspect of the series.
It was in the budget. I mean, we didn't, you know, we used it when we wanted to, and you know, I rarely came up against situations where I was screaming at anyone to give us more, you know, I would just keep trying to do certain things, and unless someone said, no, we just can't do this, I think I wasn't as distracted by the business side of things. I was just making the show that I wanted to make, and leaving it up to someone else to go, oh shit, why is he like this? We need to like put the stop on this. And I'd be like, okay, we'll just go without it. But we managed to get so much stuff in there that having the CGI guys, like, we actually are why that division sort of started up at Zim. And having them, we could just go to their office. We just you know, walk down the hall, and there's the, you know, the CG department, and talk to those guys individually and be like, okay, I see, you know, this is cool looking, but how about a little bit more like this, change the angle on that, and you know, different lens. Like, it was so hands-on. It was it was great, and that's how things should be.
The animation was done by Nickelodeon's animation studio, and the CGI segments was produced by Nickelodeon's graphic motion department called Knit Digital. Finding voices to fit the characters was a difficult task. Mark Hamill was supposed to originally play Zim, but he was later replaced by Richard Horvitz because Vasquez thought that his voice fit the best. The most difficult voice he had trouble finding was for the character Gaz, because most people who audition for her always do a generic little girl voice, while the easiest voice he cast was for the character Gur, since he just asked Ricky Simmons to do it, since Ricky was staying with him at the time to help him write his I Feel Sick comic.
There's a question here about the origin of casting Ricky for Gur. I think there's an anecdote in the book about Ricky was staying with you for a while, helping to work on your comics. Is that?
Yeah, he was coloring I Feel Sick.
And could you just relate that, I guess, briefly, how you ended up saying, well, Ricky, why don't you try?
I'm not a big fan of, unless that was the point, voice casting is hard. It is very, 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 very difficult. Unless you don't give a shit, in which case I guess it's easy. For me, things are very difficult because I want, I see it in my head and I hear it in my head. So then I've got to find people, and I don't know, maybe that's the wrong way to go about it, but then I try to find people that are that thing. And for certain characters, it's tough because you're basically trying to cast you, but not you, like with Zim or Dib. Dib is spot on. Dib is spot on. Zim has ended up becoming sort of a hybrid of my idea and then something else that Richard brought in. But with Gur, I knew it was just going to be a crazy robot. Not anything that I knew of already. It was frustrating casting for everyone pretty much, because for the most part you get people that aren't what you want at all. And no slight against any particular actor, but it's not what you want for this character. Even if people came in and you were like, oh my God, that's a great, these are really talented people, but that's not Zim, that's not Dib, that's not Gaz. Gaz was really hard. Because you have a little girl character and you have a bunch of ladies come in and they do little girl voices, and it's very like cute, and they go to a place that you've heard a million times before, and even though it is good, it's sort of typical and boring to me. Most animation I really just can't stand. I don't know. So it does something to my brain where I'm just like, no, this is for kids. This isn't really for me. Not that I don't like things that are for kids, but for the most part, it just sounds like, I guess they really didn't care about making this sound any different from that or this. And that was the case with Gur. A lot of people came in and were like, oh, you want a crazy robot? And they would go, I am a robot. A lot of sort of, they would go to a very typical place. And even if it was good, it wasn't my show. And I don't remember exactly how it went, but I knew Ricky. I liked Ricky's voice, and I liked that Ricky's voice seemed uncontrolled. Actors, like a voice actor, a good voice actor knows how to control their voice. Ricky did not know how to control his voice. You don't know what Ricky's going to give you. One of the amazing things about Richard, who is a dream come true, is he can give you crazy, but he can give you the same crazy every single time with just slight variations. And he is, like I said, he's a dream come true. Ricky is a dream come true on the opposite end, though. You could tell him, Ricky, I want you to say this line, but then, bring it up at the end, or go, oh no, that's too bad. And Ricky will go, oh no, that's too bad. And you're like, whoa, where did that come? Like, no, that's not at all what I asked you to do. And you're like, and then after a while, you're like, oh my God, the words come out of my mouth And then from here to Ricky's head, they turn into some other thing. And then he goes, oh yeah, I can get, here it comes. And then he'll realign it. And then we'll all just look at each other and just be like, what the fuck? And sometimes it's horrible. And sometimes it's amazing. And so we would just record so much of Ricky and then just pull from this bit or that bit. And that works for Gur because it doesn't make sense. Gur is this busted machine who doesn't really even have a brain. He has garbage inside of him, which is amazing because somehow the garbage created a person. And that was what worked. That was what was just funny to me. And I'm lucky. I'm glad that really wasn't a big fight. It was just like, but no, look, like that's funny. Just please let us do this. Sometimes you end up in fights for things that we're like, sure, but it's just your opinion. Like, go with my opinion. Just go with mine. If it just comes down to whose opinion, go with mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's how Ricky came about. Ricky was present. He could already do it. So in a lot of ways, Gur is just Ricky, written by me.
Vasquez also credits horror film director David Cronenberg for influencing his writing style in Invader Zim, specifically the episode Belonius Maximus, which was inspired by his movie The Fly. Fun fact, the backpack part on Zim is the actual Zim, and the alien part is just a clone that the backpack uses to move around with.
Zim, the personality, is contained inside of that backpack, which is sort of this existence David Cronenberg style. Like if you opened up this machine, it would have, flesh, but also machine parts. And the bodies are just, cloned things. The bodies aren't the people. So you could just plug that backpack into a compatible body, and that's the person again.
A couple of references from Vasquez's comic are also shown in Invader Zim. Squee made a brief appearance in the show's pilot episode. Dib is wearing the same shirt Squee wore in the comics. Zim's human disguise looks like an early alien design Vasquez did for a Squee comic, and Miss Bitters was Squee's teacher in the comics. Invader Zim also won an Emmy for Outstanding Individual Achievement in Animation and an Annie Award for Best Title Sequence. There were all kinds of rumors as to why Invader Zim was canceled. One rumor was that the parents complained to Nickelodeon about Invader Zim being too scary for their kids to watch. Another rumor was about how Vasquez didn't like how they were trying to censor his show, and he had some sort of falling out with the Nickelodeon execs. But in reality, there really hasn't been any confirmation as to why Invader Zim was actually canceled. Even Vasquez doesn't even know why they canceled it, but he assumes the reason Invader Zim got canceled was because the show wasn't performing the way Nickelodeon wanted it to. Vasquez also explained that even if the rumors of the complaining parents were true, he thinks that Nickelodeon wouldn't have canceled Invader Zim if the ratings were good enough, which makes sense because Nickelodeon is still a corporation, and the corporation's number one job is to make as much profit as possible.
So Invader Zim ran on Nickelodeon from I believe March 2001 to December 2002. Now, I've heard so many different things, and I'm sure if I just look it up, I can find it. But why do that when I have the man here himself to tell me? I've heard so many rumors to why it was not on Nickelodeon after that. Heard things from it was canceled because of low ratings. You didn't like censorship that was probably going to start happening with your humor. Nobody's going to tell you what to do. Also, I heard that what I just joked around with, which I was kind of serious, that the show just kind of worried and scared parents, and they kind of pressured Nickelodeon into pulling it. So, I mean, I don't know if all these things are kind of a factor, or if there's one truth right there. But I mean, can you could perhaps tell us what went on with that?
By this point, I've heard so much stuff that I love hearing all the different theories. I don't know what the answer is. Like I wasn't there in any of the meetings where they decided this is why we're gonna cancel the show. But I like to think that they're all kind of true.
Yeah.
I love the idea of parents being so terrified that they're calling up Nickelodeon saying, "Stop it! Take it off!" I love that image. If my take on it is, even if it was, making parents shit themselves, and if it was making, kids into, you know, lunatics or whatever. If the ratings were there, I don't think it would have mattered. I don't think any of that would have mattered. I think it just came down to ratings. You know, it just wasn't performing like these other shows that Nickelodeon had that were, I think, a little easier to digest or a little less nonstop screaming. You know, I don't know what the exact reason is, but I think it's kind of fun that no one knows, you know? And yeah, I wish I had like some definitive answer. They never told me, well, we're canceling it because, you know, we don't like your face or anything like that. It was just, it was just, they're pulling the plug. And that was it. I didn't question it. At the time, I didn't ask, why are you doing this to us? It sucked because we had a whole crew, you know, this was their livelihoods for a while, but it wasn't an easy show to make.
In 2019, Invader Zim was given a Netflix movie titled Invader Zim Enter the Fortress. The movie had a positive reception, even though Vasquez mentioned that a lot of things were cut out due to time constraints. And apparently there were plans on making a video game that would have been released around the same time as the movie.
During the movie, executives were basically contacting me about how I'd feel about another game. Like this time they were pitching it. They were like, you know, we want to put you in touch with, you know, with some game developers, people that we think can do something cool with Zim, kind of hopefully time it for release around the time of the movie. And I was just like, yeah, that all sounds great. I'm busy working on the movie, but, you know, I'll help however I can. And, you know, I threw a couple of developer names their way, people that I thought were making interesting little games. And they seemed really, really stuck on Way Forward. Like they wanted the guys that do like, what is it? Shantae? I forget. But, you know, cool, like side scroller sort of stuff. They do these 2D side scrollers. And I was just like, whatever, you know, I'll talk to whoever. And, you know, if they've got cool ideas, that sounds really cool. I'd love to see Zim in any kind of game. And then that went nowhere. That, like, they just sort of killed that.
At the time of this recording, Richard Horvitz, the voice of Zim, is voicing Raz in the video game, The Psychonaut 2, and Moxie in the YouTube animated series, Hell of a Boss. And he's also playing Steven Spielberg in the upcoming thriller called Deadly Draw. The last thing Andy Berman, the voice of Dale, worked on was being an executive producer for the series, Carter, as well as a writer for the TV movie Sight 2. Melissa Fine, the voice of Gaz, is the voice of Dusu in the series The Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir, as well as the voice of Neptune in the video game Neptunia Reverse. Ricky Simmons, the voice of Gur, is voicing Tarvis in a Doctor Who spin-off fan series called The Inspector Chronicles. Jhonen Vasquez has a drawing podcast on Twitch called Drawing Hurts. He streams every Monday and Thursdays at 6 p.m. As for him creating a new series, he did explain that he does have some ideas for a new show, but he doesn't know if he wants to pitch it as a cartoon or not.
Do you have any animation-related projects do you see in the future coming up?
I never think of things in those terms. There's ideas that I have that work better for animation. Like I am working on just sort of putting together, I guess, a pitch for a thing that is probably animation. But I don't know if that's how I'll pitch it or if I'll even pitch it at all. It was something that I was speaking to one of the networks years ago, many years ago. Had a meeting and pitched this general idea, and then they liked it. Then they set up another meeting, and I just didn't go back. I was just like, nah, this is a bad idea. Not that my idea was bad, but I was just like, the idea of doing something in animation, and they wanted to do it as kind of like kids action adventure and the sort of Ben 10 sort of realm. And I was just like, do I want to do this? Do I want to, like, because you know it's going to be hell no matter what. it's going to be hell. So it's like, is this the hell that I want to be in right now? And I just didn't go back. I was just like, no, I don't want to see this idea go bad because I really like this idea. It's pretty cool. But then what ends up happening is, you know, I don't have a show. I'm at home going, look at that show that someone picked up. Look at that. Look, how do people like that shit? Oh my God. And then I'm walking away from, you know, meetings because I'm terrified of the thought of someone else fucking up my idea. I want to fuck up my idea. You know what I mean? Like, I want to fuck it up.
Invader Zim ended way too early. If you're a big fan of the series, I would highly recommend you checking out the comics because they're a continuation of the original series, and they're even written by Jhonen Vasquez.
Well,